I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. I hope that video doesn't scare people sometimes. So far, I love it because it gives the flavor of the show, as you guys all know. Looks like we got people jumped on right away. I was concerned. Sorry about being a little late here today. My fault. We had a technology issue. This always happens. You know what, Bill? I gotta make my part shorter, because when I talk, they jump off, and then when the guest talks, the expert guest talk, all of a sudden it takes off. We had 10 people there during the video, and now we have 2. So we're gonna see what happens here, though. I'm pretty confident that you're gonna stir everybody up here, because I have been very, very, very excited about this next guest's mission and message. Spent 30 years on the radio, and by the way, he's got a great radio voice. And he does work with men in mental health, and more to don't give up, man. Don't give up on, he's been through a couple of divorces, and men have a different struggle than women do. We know it's harder for us to communicate and take that next step towards some next step. And so there's a lot of issues that we all talk about, but like the show is, we bring on experts. We bring on experts that can give you valuable information, because, the elites have a lot more access to information, details, data, whatever, than middle Americans. And we're middle-class Americans. Sorry about that. And we're the backbone of building America. We need leaders. That there's the vision, as well as our vision, by voting people in and out. It's not a political discussion today, unless Bill wants to make it one, but I doubt it. This is about men's ability to move forward and be included, be involved in your the rest of your life, your future. Bill's going to explain those steps, probably right about now. That's what I'm thinking.
There he is.
We already have a question.
Oh, wow.
This message is so needed. How can more men hear this? Ooh, okay, we're putting that sucker up. Don't, Adam, you got to wait. Hold on. All right. So do now, see what I mean? Look at how many people are on now. That's happened the last 2 days in a row. Guys, I hope I'm not boring you in the beginning of these episodes. Here he goes again. We got a couple more coming in. But anyway, before Adam, we get onto some of the comments here. I asked Bill to go start, where to come from. He's been 30 years in a radio station as a would that be called a disc? At one time, it's called a disc jockey. I remember that.
It started out as a disc jockey, then we became air personalities. That was
okay. Let's stay with that one. That one sounds way better. The 70s was the disc jockey, right? Like 70s, man. 80s,
60s.
Like
yeah, even goes way back. Yeah.
All right. So let's start it off. What, why, how, and when, and then your message. And because the background colors in extra layers of a message, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big, long history and future, and all that's going on in the present. I saw your intro, and I just wanted to say that you were asking if it was weird and all that. I'm like, that's what caught my attention, to say, this guy's having fun, and this looks like a great place to be. So I appreciate you having me on today. So.
That was the priority. Thank you very much. That was the priority for that, because I'm now authentic, and there's a long story there, but this is what makes me have the ability to be curious all the time, because I'm not, stiff, right?
Yeah, well, that's how we grow.
Whatever that means. Exactly. Whatever that meant. Bill, save me. I'm going down a rabbit hole. I can already tell here.
All right, let's jump into this.
Start us off, Bill. Yes.
Well, I started out as a child, so we'll start there.
Good place.
As most of us do, right? And that I bring that up because it's significant because my parents divorced when I was 6 years old. I was the youngest of five, the oldest 15 years older than me. So I was way down the line after the cocktail party thing. I think that's how I came about. But anyway, with that divorce, I went to live with my mom for a couple of years. And she was not the easiest person to live with. She had her issues. And eventually she gave custody to my father. I was about 8 years old. And I didn't see my mother after that. And at the age of 13, she died of a heart attack. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, and
Wow.
same year I lost my brother.
Right there. Yeah. Oh, you did?
And I lost my oldest brother in a car accident 6 months later. So that was 13 years old, big developmental year for me, and significant. That significant event with losing my mom had an impact on my relationships, and I didn't know it until years later. But the way I did a relationship was started in high school. I'd be with a girl, and then I'd find interest in another girl, and then I'd drop her and go to the next one. I always overlapped my relationships. And that took me up to my first marriage. And you mentioned being on the radio, especially in Philadelphia, man. They love the radio personalities. And I just had so much offered to me.
You're a rock star, man.
Meaning women were very eager to be with me. And yes, did I succumb? Yes, I did. And I'm not necessarily proud of that. It was just where I was lacking in maturity. My wife at the time and we got along great. We didn't have issues. I just didn't, I couldn't keep it out of my pants, I guess. Could you say that? Yeah. But anyway, so that wasn't. Wait.
No. Hold on.
Yeah.
What you just said, I can't keep it. You said that in reverse, didn't you? I can't keep it in my pants.
I couldn't. Right.
I couldn't stop from keeping it outside my pants.
Yeah. And and it wasn't like I
women, I apologize. Any ladies on right now, that was rude.
And and I, not that it makes it any better. We're talking like a couple of times. It wasn't like, I was this, slut out there. But anyway, it still was not a good thing to do in a marriage. And it was a good marriage. I mean, we got along great. I was just immature. I had no real understanding what it meant to be in a committed relationship. I mean, I knew, kind of theoretically, before we got married, we had the minister counsel us and everything, and I had all the right answers, but I still, wanted my cake and eat it too. So fast forward to my next wife, who I'd married to my first wife. So again, overlapping, and went into that relationship. She had 4 kids, and we ended up having one together. And I'm not here to throw any of my exes under the bus. I'm just taking responsibility for me. So just want to make that clear. So we had our issues. We were together for about, close to 10 years. And that's when I started going to therapy. And the growth was in the second marriage was that I was faithful. I didn't stray anymore, even though the temptation was there. I learned my lesson. I was definitely committed. But I learned a few things about myself. I had a 0 on my salary compared to my wife at the time. So I was the big breadwinner. We had a 27-room house, big, everything we needed, everything we wanted.
27 room?
It was a big house, man. And we had...
I'd say so. Either that or they're really tiny rooms.
No, they weren't. And so it was like I had everything, and I found through therapy and feedback that I was controlling because I was the breadwinner. I was the man. I made all the financial decisions. I made all the decisions around the house. And I didn't realize that I was controlling. It was brought up to me. And it wasn't out of malice or, just trying to be controlling. It was what I thought was best for family and everything else, including myself. And I also found out that had what this was called like the white and shiny armor syndrome, where I was trying to save my wife, who was a single mom at the time, 4 kids, and here I am saving her and the kids, and I'm the white and knight in shining armor. And that's not the most healthy way to be in a relationship either.
No.
And so eventually, I'll just say it came to a head, and here I was. The hardest part was that my daughter went with her and my ex's 4 kids, and I'm in the middle of my living room in this big house, no furniture in that living room, just rug on the floor.
Hello.
Yes, exactly. Myself and my dog, and I am just sobbing. Like, for the first time in my life, I'm alone. I didn't overlap a relationship. I'm by myself. And that was the beginning of my real growth, because I had to learn how to be with me, right? And through going through therapy, going through different workshops and all these kind of things to learn and grow, I became a holistic health practitioner, doing massage and body work,
I saw
energy
that.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Tai Chi master instructor. I'm a mind body educator and integrative therapy practitioner. All this while I was still on the radio, but I was going through all that because the radio job was a stressful job, even though I made a lot of money and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of pressure in commercial, corporate radio. You have to get the ratings and all that stuff. So there was always pressure. And so I started to learn different ways to take care of myself, to deal with the stress. So that's how I became that mind body educator, integrative therapy, holistic health practitioner, and a professional coach. And so that's where my healing really began, doing all that stuff. And here comes wife number 3. I met her in my Tai Chi class, my teacher's Tai Chi class, and we hit it off. And she happened to be married at the time. So here we are, reversing the role.
Oh my goodness, dude! You got
man.
a crazy circle going around here.
Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, it's life. Life, shows up and doesn't need our permission, right? So anyway,
correct.
I thought, well, I found someone with similar interests, because I had started my personal growth journey with my second wife, and that was kind of an issue because I was changing, right? And so I met someone who I thought, well, she knows this world, she knows this alternative world, and and I'm like, I found the one. Well, we had quite a roller coaster relationship, on and off, and it got to the point where the first part was, listen, I want to be with you. I can't be with you if you're married, even though they were separated and all that stuff. I said, when you're divorced and you're ready to go, call me and see where I am. And that was a tough boundary to make, because I really wanted to be with her, and it felt like she was the one breaking up with me, but I had to take care of myself to not be in that pain of her and her ex. So fast forward, she got the divorce, we got back together, we got married, we have a beautiful son, and I started to lose my identity. I think she still saw me a little bit as the celebrity with the radio guy, and also knew me around my holistic health practice. I had started my own business at that time, and I just started feeling alone in my relationship. And my epiphany with that is, I'd rather be alone than feel alone with somebody or in a relationship.
Good way to. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Ponder that. That's a very healthy way to look at life, yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's when that's when that marriage dissolved, and here I was. I went from the 27-room house, and then fast forwarding up to this marriage, to one room in someone's house, a friend of a friend's house. I rented a room in that house, and I was like, you know what? I'm done with relationship. I mean, I've done all this work with relationship. I've done a lot of couples counseling. I did my own trainings and all these things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to live a monk's life, and just forget this relationship thing. It's just not for me. And I was serious about it. And one evening, I'm sitting there in meditation, and I get this strong push to say, it is time, like Rafiki in The Lion King, it is time. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It is
Yeah.
time. What do you mean? Well, to put myself out there. And I'm like, no, man, look, I'm divorced 3 times. I got 2 kids. I'm living in one room in someone's house. Oh, and by the way, I got laid off my radio job. They changed format, and I was unemployed that way. I mean, I was still doing my holistic health stuff. So
Hey, well,
basically,
before you go on, so
yeah.
don't forget about there, but I have to interject right now because what you're talking about, your story right there, with a few exceptions, little
Mhm.
ones, is my story. Exactly.
Ah.
I mean, I'm listening to you and going, what the hell? Did producer Barbie send you over here to screw
Yeah,
with
sounds
me or
familiar,
what?
huh? Hmm.
That, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I went through that same thing, and I can't wait for you to keep going here and dig into that a little bit, because I think I went through that all the way through the circle, and I'm a better person now, I think. So go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. I'm sure you are. And that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's, I know what I was an expert in what not to do in a relationship. And because I valued relationships so much, now that I'm in this 16-year marriage, it's amazing, but I'm interrupting myself. So where I got out of that relationship, I'm meditating, and it is time, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But the push was so hard, Rod, that I was guided to go on this website called Conscious Match. And so I went
Okay.
on there, and I put my profile out there, and I was trying to figure out how to do it because I didn't have a very good track record. I didn't look good on paper. And so anyway, 3 days later, I get this poke from a woman who was on a website called Spiritual Singles. That's what it was. And apparently they were integrated. And I get this,
okay.
and she was local. A lot of these websites back then, like you get somebody from Russia or, somewhere that nowhere near that I'm going to have a chance with this person. And she was close by, about a half hour away. And we got to chatting via email. And I started putting out all my stuff, like everything, all my dirty laundry, because why not? Because, why waste your time putting out something that you're not, or holding back, and then they're going to find out eventually anyway, right? So I'm like, what the heck? What do I have to lose? So I put it all out there, and her comment to all that was, wow, he believes in marriage. So, that was a good thing.
That was her comment.
Yeah, that's what she said. And then
That's a twist.
yeah, and she
I
said,
like it.
there was something in my eyes that attracted her. So anyway, she gave me all her stuff. She had her baggage and all her stuff as well. And this is all before, we haven't even talked on the phone yet. We're still emailing. And then we decided to talk on the phone, and we had nice conversations. And then we decided to meet. And as soon as our eyes met, this feeling in my heart was, I'm home. This is home. This is where I need to be. And we've been together 16 years plus, and I couldn't be any more happier. Our marriage gets better and better each and every day. And so that's part of my inspiration as my encore career, to work with men in relationship, or, anybody in relationship, but focusing on men. And another reason for that, Rod, is I was also, for the past 10 years, I've been working, my clinical work is at a major health clinic here in Philadelphia as a mind-body educator and integrative therapy practitioner. Part of that is doing coaching, and most of my clientele were women. I'd say about 80%, maybe even more. And I kept hearing the same things over and over from these women, oh, he doesn't tell me how he feels. I ask him how he's doing. He says nothing, and no empathy. And I'm like, oh, okay, starting to ring a bell. And I said, well, what if he were to say this? And she goes, oh man, that would make all the difference in the world. Or what if we were to do this? And that's when the light bulb went off to say, okay, I've had my
Ooh.
issues and I've gotten through all of them. And thank God for the mentors and therapists and all the people I've had along the way. And then hearing these women who are out here suffering because their men are just making it really hard. They love them, they want to be with them, yet they're having a hard time connecting. And I'm like, if you could just tweak a few things, we're not changing, we're not taking away your masculinity, we're just enhancing with some other qualities. And that's where I found is the key, is finding that balance. And so that's why I'm here. I'm on a love mission.
Yeah, I saw that. That's very cool. We've had a couple of texts or comments come along, as you know. This was the follow up, and both. There's this emerging story curiosity here along the line that why don't we know more about this? Why don't men know more, and what can women do to help support that and bring that out in us? Because when I said that I mirrored your description there, to a degree, but the emotional side of what you're saying, that is like connect dots, man. That's exactly the same. So I have to feel like, that's not the right word. I have to think that a large population of men our age and, well, forget it, our age and younger, older people are getting here now.
Right.
So yeah, what do you think about this? I mean, what is why don't we talk about this more? Because it's important. You're a radio guy and I'm a host. I'm here. So it's about talking. Why doesn't, not us, but everybody?
Well, and that's a great question. Yeah. And it's why I'm doing what I'm doing to get the word out. My podcast is Men on the Path to Love, and that's a start. And I think the broad
where do you run your podcasts?
I'm not sure. Well, you can get it anywhere, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
And I also have a Beyond the Episode podcast on YouTube as well. And the podcast is on YouTube. It's audio only, but anyway, I think the broad answer to your question, Rod, is how we've been conditioned. And we've been conditioned not to talk about it. And yeah, and then we're considered weak or soft if we're, sharing our thoughts and our emotions and things like that. Yeah. And, there was a big men's movement back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when I started to, kind of part of my growth. And when you can be with other men and feel safe to be able to express your emotions, you can go to a football game and you can hug each other because we got a touchdown and high five and cry because we lost. That's just a way that we're allowed to do that. And if you can just do it, every day, the strength is in identifying those emotions and thoughts. And that's what we're going against the grain in terms of our conditioning. And go ahead. That comment right there about the way we're safe as men to show emotion are those examples. That's a pivot, a turn from what I've always thought about, which is men just biologically going back in time, they close into themselves. But when you said that, I go, whoa, wait a minute. What I thought about is missing something. And you're right. I mean, if you can do that, you have those emotions, but you're also, as men, forced to shut them down, right? Yeah, that's what society, that's what our culture, that's what our conditioning tells us we need to do. So when you've got, centuries of that, that's hard to peel away all those layers, right? And
Yes.
including myself. I mean, it's been decades that I started out, my own personal and spiritual growth, and it takes time to change. And the main thing is your willingness to change. And the question I ask a lot of guys, especially, is how is what you're doing now working for you? How is
Yes,
not expressing
exactly.
your emotions working for you?
Not good.
No. And when men can really open up to the strength that it takes to do that, to go against our conditioning, to go against what other people think. And there are women that believe that men should be the same way that they think they should be, stoic and all those things. And if they're showing signs of crying or expressing their emotions, then even the women can see the men as weak. And I'm not saying that's the case everywhere. I'm saying that's kind of rare. What I hear the most is women are starving for men to be vulnerable and to express their, how can we support
Perfect
men?
timing there.
Yeah. And Ariel, I mean, the fact that you even ask, that, and you'd be willing to support, it's being there for men to understand that, it's a work in progress, and that to give them some grace around them trying. And that's what I say a lot to when I see couples. It's really about giving them a chance, because no matter how old you are, we're talking since you're a little kid, you've been conditioned to be a certain way, and then all of a sudden you're trying to change. Well, figure out any time in your life where you try to make a change. Go on a diet, right? How long does that last, and how long does it take? You got to be really, really, really committed.
Hard, difficult stuff.
Right.
Difficult
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. So just make sure as a woman you're giving your partner grace, that if he's trying, then you got it. That's most you can ask for, and
Okay,
hopefully he'll change.
Great answer there. Love that. How do you? I'm curious. Now you made me think of something deeper. I love digging deep. Right, we're
Go
not
deep.
surface here.
There we
Going
go.
deep, baby. Here we go.
Great. Let's do it.
The that answer. But how do you know that the other? I mean, how do you reveal that? Open that that thing. Give him a chance. But is that by him coming to her and saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to try and make a chance here," and then just sit back, or is there more communication, or not? Like sometimes women partners, they just want to talk for the next 20 minutes. Barbie used to call it. She had what did she say it was? Like a certain amount of words she had to use in a day, and that's a legitimate biological female thing, as she said. But how does that come? There is a conversation about that, right, with you and the partner to answer this question. Not this one. This one.
Yeah. Well,
This one.
it sometimes it depends on how it comes up.
Everybody's different.
Sometimes I have men that come to me. Obviously, I have men that come to me directly for that, and then they have the conversation with their spouse or partner. Oftentimes, what's happened, especially in my clinical practice, is that the woman, she tells her partner about me, and then we meet together, the three of us. We can have that conversation there, or when I meet one-on-one with the man, then I teach them and coach them how to communicate in a way that really allows him to be heard and allows her to be seen.
Totally get that. Totally get that. And is that then prompting? I'm asking from the female side, from the female side. Is it like under the radar help, or is it an involvement? Is it best for an involvement to some degree from the wife to the man making his efforts to be something he's been conditioned not to be for 4 or 5 generations or whatever it is. So is there a too much or not enough help from your partner, or is there?
Well, I mean, that's a delicate question. Well, sort
It
of. I mean,
is.
the delicate part is how much does she involve? It's really the change is going to come from him. It has to come from him in terms of changing himself. Now, if he has support, like my wife is so supportive in all the things I do in my own personal growth and my love mission that I'm doing right now. And yet, I make my decisions for me. And the delicate part is she can see where he could tweak things a little bit or be helpful and start to teach. And whether you're man, woman in the relationship, it doesn't matter. Nobody really wants to be taught. They want to feel supported, but don't teach me, don't preach at me. And because when you do that, it just kind of shuts down, puts the spotlight on the other person, and they lose connection. So when you can get
That's an
licensed,
excellent point.
yeah, when you can get licensed to get help, that's the different thing. And what I mean by that is, listen, I've got a couple ideas I'd like to share with you, and I'm wondering if you're open to hear it. So if she says that, then he has the choice to say, yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say. Or, you know what, no, I'm good right now. But if you just go right into, she sees that he's doing great, but wants to add to it, her thoughts and if he's not open to that, it's going to feel like she's preaching.
Yeah, that's where I was looking at. Women and men biologically are, and aside from the fact that men have been pushing their feelings away forever, but men and women at broad brush, there's differences, but they take information and use information and read information pretty differently because of men are more completion oriented, women are more everything else.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Everything else. So how do we get just kind of shift off before there's about probably a third of women, mostly men, but a third of women here. So I better behave. You guys know I don't.
Yeah, behave yourself.
So how do we spread the message wider?
Oh, Damien, thanks.
Your message.
I appreciate that,
Damien,
man.
Yes.
Well, in my own self-service is, Men on the Path to Love is my podcast. That's my mission, is to spread this mission wider. So, that's serving my purpose to make this international. It's not just national for me.
Exactly.
But on a personal level, Damien, it's being the message yourself. It's being open to change, being open to going against some of these conditionings that we've been going through as men, to embrace vulnerability, compassion, empathy, those things that are traditionally associated with women, even though men and women are capable or just as capable of doing it. It's just how we've been conditioned. So modeling that behavior is probably the best thing you can do. And then if you see, if you can enter a conversation where, they're talking about this, and I don't really like the term, but the toxic masculinity, if you know what I mean by that.
I hate that term. And that's one of the biggest interests when this subject happens, which is pretty regular. We do different subjects, right? Finances, personal growth, mental health, all that stuff. And it's been building for almost a decade, maybe, but certainly the last few years. That's cruel. That's as cruel as when my dad came home from Vietnam and people were spitting at him because of what the news media was all about. So we got a real screwed up thing going there.
Yeah.
Society, the politicians, somebody doesn't want men to be comfortable within their own skin. They're trying to make men
Yeah.
what trainable, what's the word? Make them adhere to, men
Conform to
are
everything.
naturally
Yeah.
conformed. There you go. So
Well, and
how do we get it going?
I'm just going to give you an example of I had a coach last summer. This guy was from Scotland, and I just loved his energy.
I
He was just just, and yet over the course of our time together, I started noticing some of his views on women, and it just started to go against my grain. And then we had an issue that I won't get into, but it was about our payments, and he was not good. Put it that way. I'm being nice here, but he during that time he said, "Oh, that I sent him a text, and he said, oh, spoken just like a feminized man."
Ooh.
And I just laughed at it because
Stupid.
I understood where he was coming from. Like, oh, like what you were just saying, but I don't see it that way. I see it as we keep all of our masculine qualities that are God-given, given qualities and gifts that we have, and we bring in some of the feminine characteristics that or characteristics that are more associated with women. When you can bring in that vulnerability, talk about your emotions and your thoughts and express yourself, when you can have empathy, understand where they're coming from, whether it's right or wrong, you just understand their experience. So they feel seen and heard. And the same is for all of us. We all want to feel seen and heard. So you add these qualities on top of your masculinity. It's not about getting rid of your masculinity. Like, why would you do that? That's not the point. I mean, that's this doesn't make sense. But that's the fear, I think, that men have, that are afraid to open up and think about their own vulnerability, how they can be better in a relationship, versus, no, I go, rah, 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 rah. And if we can just, soften up a little bit, and that actually shows our strength and our courage to do that for the better, not only for our relationships, but for ourselves. It starts with ourselves. And when we can do that and take that into our relationship and then take that out into the world and all of our relationships, then I think the world's a much better place.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now it's shifted from what is this message? Yeah, tell me more. I'm interested, to how do we spread it around? Damien, thank you very much for this. And then right after that was Bradley Pump, truly inspiring. Thanks. And here's the thing is this is not at all an easy task, because you men walk around with a face. From my experience, I walked around for most of my life behind a mask, so to speak, hiding who I was, and then had a break, had an issue, and a lot of things happened, a stroke, and more. I had a motorcycle accident that broke every bone in this side of the body. Wow. So it was a really bad day. No, it was a really bad couple of years, and I had some embezzlement from. So anyway. This mask has been what I have been my whole life, thinking, I'm what'd you say, the knight in shining armor?
Yeah, I know what you meant.
The hell?
That's not an easy thing to say, by the way.
I know. Not only is it easy, but how do you miss that? I'm not even going to try it again, because now I'm intimidated. But that, that going through that, I'm a totally different person now. And when you say men need to start working on it, it's true. Mm-hmm. And the more dedicated you are, the more success you have in achieving that. And on top of that, I can absolutely, I'm not a perfect man, never have been, won't be. I'm a dude, just an average guy, but people like me more now. I like me more now. Yeah. I'm authentic, where when I was behind the mask, I was this, I was ashamed of raw stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was JR. And so, right. I mean, that's what I meant when I said, I'm hearing my story.
Yeah. And you're not alone. We're
And
not
most
alone,
men's
man.
probably
It's
no.
yeah, there's a lot and yet you don't hear much about it because we're trained not to talk about it. And,
Exactly.
having a platform like this gives us a chance to do that. And, so, Bradley and Damien, just keep, spread the word with this podcast that you're watching and anything you can do
Yeah.
to
Forward it
spread the word.
everywhere, guys. Forward it
Yeah,
everywhere.
that's
All your
absolutely like
social media. I'm
get
for
the word
that.
out. Yeah, there you go.
I am
Uh,
absolutely for that.
yeah. And again, it's,
uh,
and it's also starting with yourself to try to model it your own self and get the help you need if you need it, So,
yeah. And that's what has been a difficult, and that was part of my process. I went to professional. Producer Barbie kind of put me in a place where I had bumpers, so I didn't go in the gutter. But that then went to professional medical help, and things came this way now. Life
yeah,
is coming
yeah.
at me in a perfect pace, where before I was always agitated, I was always anxious, I was always hurrying, and
Mhm.
now I'm the opposite of all that.
Yeah, and
So
that's how, yeah, when we find our authentic self,
yes,
life's so much better because you can just be
it is.
you. You don't have to put that mask on every day. That's exhausting.
Exactly.
Trying to live up
It's
to what you
stressful and
want.
exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you don't
and
know it
yeah,
till
and
you
that's
pay
how I
attention.
felt in my third marriage, where I felt like I had to be a certain way for her, and I was going against the
Knight
grain.
in
Like,
shining.
no, this is
Yep.
like it got to the point where she was identifying, like I was defined by her, and I would I got so caught up in it that I believed it. Then I'm like, no, it's like, and and some people might think, well, that's a sign of weakness that happened. But yeah, I mean, it was a weak moment because I gave into it. But the blessing is, I saw through it and I realized I got to be true to me. I got to be me. I can't be for anybody else other than me. And when I work with men, first thing we do, it's self-compassion. It's having compassion for yourself, that, care for yourself like you would someone that you love and care about. Because why would we treat ourselves badly and other people good? And that's not how we're taught. We're taught about, being there for other people, and we're not taught, we don't have conditioning, men and women, to be self-compassionate. Women are taught to take care of everybody. Men are taught to, well, I'm gonna be the provider and all that stuff, and
Yep.
push all of our stuff down, and that's what causes us problems. And when we can learn to have that compassion, it was a learned behavior for me.
Me
I
too.
went to a workshop out in Seattle. It was about 8 years ago, and made all the difference in the world to me to take care of myself. There's a woman named Kristen Neff, Neff. She wrote a book called Self-Compassion: the Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. And she's done a lot of research, and amazing research. And the book it's an easy read, and it's so impactful to realize when you can be kind to yourself and love yourself in spite of all your warts and, all your shame and everything else, then that
The
allows that
good, the
all.
bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
The
And
good,
you
the
got to
bad, and the
embrace it
ugly.
all. Yeah. I mean, every day I write down, I've been doing this for a long, long time. Every day I write down 10 things that I love about myself. And it's not about, the ego and, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. It's, I love the part of me that struggles. I love my mind. I love my, I don't know, crooked teeth, my bald head, whatever, just bringing that in, and that allows us to be okay with us. And that's when I had that epiphany of being by myself. It's like I can be by myself. I don't need anyone. And anyone that I'm with subsequently is to enhance my life, not to be there because I can't be by myself. So when you have that self-compassion, you can take that and bring that to your relationship to offer compassion to her, to him, and the rest of the world.
Yeah. So we've still got a long way to go here. And you said earlier, you don't have a hard stop anywhere.
No, I got all the
Um,
time. So
yeah. So I've got a dozen more and they usually ask additional, at the end of the, what I'm saying. So when you get a chance, before we cut out, and I'll probably say it again at the end, because not now, you don't need to do it now, but would you type in your contact information in the private chat so I can copy and paste that over? And and while you're preparing for that, what is the biggest lesson? Just what you were talking about. What's the biggest lesson you learned? And that's what happens when bad things go. That's a teaching moment or a learning moment. What was the biggest lesson you learned in that?
That's frankly because of, and I didn't say this earlier when I talked about my childhood and losing my mom and everything. The reason why I overlapped those relationships was because I had an abandonment issue. So I was afraid that, okay, my mom left me, my God, my mother left, and then she died like forever and she's gone.
Wow.
So I had this abandonment issue. So the reason why I was overlapping, so I wouldn't be alone. And I would end it because no matter what the deal was, I would end it before she did, because then I didn't feel abandoned. I'm the one who made that choice. And so I'm saying that to say where I am, the biggest lesson was learning to be okay with me. Yeah. And so it was overcoming that abandonment wound. And I did a lot of work around, healing that inner child, the 8-year-old that lost his mom. And the 13-year-old that made it permanent. And those are crucial developmental years. And it had, again, impact on my future relationships. And when we don't know that, when we just start repeating the same patterns over and over in relationship, and we wondering, why are these women all the same? And why are these men the same? Well, it's because we repeat what we've done in the past in our relationships subconsciously. 98% of our behavior is subconscious. So we're just modeling or acting out what was modeled for us usually, unless we have that, awareness. And so that's why we repeat our patterns. So once I was aware, this abandonment thing, and it was scary, man, to be by myself after all these years of, 30 some years, and finally I'm alone. That was a big adjustment. And it took courage and strength for me to heal that part of me.
100%.
And so,
100%.
So that was the biggest mistake or biggest learning. I'm not gonna say mistake, because it was all, I don't regret a thing. It's learning to be alone and being okay with myself.
Yeah. I recently entered that phase of your life. If you know what I mean. I never thought about it, but I have always, I've like 3 or 4 people that I've ever been in a relationship with over 60 years, besides my family and all that. And the reason I have less than whatever, the one in high school who I mean, she was at that point in my life, she was, or probably still is, she was everything that I ever wanted. And I went after her and we got together and I was the happiest man in the world. And then she cheated on me. So I got stripped up there pretty hard for a long time. Met somebody, beautiful girl in college, and kind of hung out kind of thing, never really serious. And then my next was the mother of my children, and then producer Barbie. But I have, it's interesting, your point there. And it's interesting to know what you didn't know before, and professional people like you are the ones that can bring that out in us. Especially men, in my opinion. Let me ask you this. How do you balance, how do men balance strength and softness in love?
That's a great question, Jason.
Yeah, it is, Jason.
and part of the answer to that is, what is your definition of strength and softness? What does that mean to you? It's just being true to you. And what are the signs of strength? Like, is it to to help and make decisions? Is it to be the provider? Like, what does that mean? It's just you being true to you and being open to her experience. And as I said earlier, it doesn't mean whether
Great
it's
point.
right or wrong. It's just her experience.
Right.
So like, she could be, she could say to me, Bill, stop yelling at me. And I'm not yelling, I'm not yelling, and
I have a loud voice anyway, so yeah.
yeah. And it does, and if I just got defensive and just said blah, 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 and poo-pooed her, then that's just going to dig or make the wedge wider. And so it's, well, I'm sorry you're experiencing me that way. Tell me how I did that. Well, you weren't really yelling. It was just how you said it to me. It was the energy behind it. Oh, so it was how I said it, not because I yelled. Yeah. So, it sounds kind of awkward to say, oh, I'm sorry you experienced me that way. Like, who talks like that, right?
To the mother of your children.
Right. But that's, because that can come out really snarky. Oh, well, I'm sorry you experienced me that way, and that's not the point. It's to be sincere about it. Like, really want to know, tell me more, tell me how I did it, so that you get an understanding of her experience. And then you can have the empathy of saying, wow, if I experienced you yelling at me like that, I would have felt the same way or something. Right.
Yes.
So that, and then it's, and then you can't even really solve an issue until you're both feel seen and heard. And so, getting defensive just breaks that down. And when you can just be open to, well, maybe I can learn something here, be curious as to what it is that I'm doing. And even if there's a grain of truth in it, be open to that feedback, because that's how we grow. And yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You want to finish that thought?
No,
I'm going
I
to
can
jump in with a cool
good
statement.
jump in.
I'm going to break in with a cool statement here. I don't remember the poet's name, but Walt. Now, anyway, you gave me the chance. I thought I was going to miss a streak here. I love bringing this comment up because it's so true and powerful. And within a poem, there was a situation and somebody said that out loud, which was, be curious, not judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. That is huge.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do we break from generation cycles, of emotional silence? Because that's probably most people, and true about most people, men, whatever.
Yeah, and again, it's just modeling that behavior, leading by example, and calling out when you see it not happening, or offering your, I caution to say, like, offer your opinion, but if you see it coming out in a way that's unhealthy, maybe pointing that out. But most importantly, again, because you don't want to be preachy about it and all that, and be righteous and I'm better than you because this, that, and the third. It's really it's really acknowledging, what, and I do that all the time. I grew up this way, big boys don't cry, and all this stuff that I was conditioned to be, and and it's like we get stuck in it. And when you can start to step out and lead by example, that's always the best way. And learn more, get help, or do some research. And I mean, there's so much out there. You just Google it and just get the awareness and start spreading the word.
Chat GPT it.
Oh
Chat
my God.
GPT it. Have you ever used that?
Oh yeah, sure. It's good. It's
Oh
a good
man,
tool.
it's a very good tool. It's awesome. And you can
Yeah.
teach it to dig wherever you want it to, so to speak.
Mhm.
We have a number of the questions have, in my opinion, have been awesome, excellent. And I love that, because that means people are getting a message that they
Mhm.
didn't have before, filling them up, and that's
Great.
what we try and do every day, right?
Mhm.
So we have a number of probably three or four that just really stick as far as their questions.
Okay.
This is a little bit off of what the other gentleman asked about masculinity, but what does a healthy masculine energy look like in a relationship? I think that's a fascinating question. What does it
Yeah.
look like? You got to walk a
Um,
balance.
yeah, I just, go from my gut. The first thing that came up for me was safety, providing a safe environment. And we as men are mostly physically and stronger than women. And
Mhm.
and this was brought forth to me years and years ago, and it's always stuck with me that we can for most men, I'd say, could probably overpower the woman they're with physically. And so women have to live with that. Like there's a little wave of fear that could always happen in a relationship.
Good point.
And so that you have to be aware that you are physically stronger, and so to provide a safe place physically and to understand where her insecurities could be, and honor that versus, oh, you're too sensitive and you're so this, and it's like, no, that's just what's real. I mean, my wife's been through trauma, and I've had to adjust because of that to create a safe environment for her. And that takes effort, that takes trial and error, and most importantly, it's communicating with her, what is it that you need in order to feel safe in this relationship,
Wow.
right?
That is powerful. I mean, um, and that's bringing it back to, I think, our DNA individually. Meaning, from the village days or whatever, men have gone out and created, did their part in bringing the income, the lifestyle, the food,
Yep,
right?
the provider, yeah.
And
Mhm.
the provider. Thank you for your help there.
Mhm.
Um, and then and then it more or less the same thing today, but in a different world, right? So having that balance of um interests and chores and responsibilities, that balance between mates is it really comes out with conversation when talking about it.
Absolutely.
um how can men deal with judgment when they're showing oh Jesus, I'm having trouble with
Vulnerability. That's a
words
hard
today.
word to say too. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, are you
It
referring
is.
to the judgment of their partner or spouse?
I'm assuming that. Let's go with that, because
Okay.
if you got it with your spouse, then you definitely got it with other people, right?
Yeah, I think that just goes back to communication and saying, I'm not sure, one of my favorite things is, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like,
Yeah.
how are you judging me? Like, oh, you're soft because you're crying, or you're, whatever. And it's easy for the man at that point, because he's being vulnerable, for any of us, really. Anytime we're making ourselves
Yeah.
vulnerable and someone judges us because of that, then that can trigger, the shame inside of us and all that, because this is a scary thing to do. And then we do it, and then we get judged by it. And I certainly went that through one of my marriages where I was judged, and that's a painful place.
Yeah.
So if you're the guy and you're being judged by your spouse or partner, it's expressing that to say, I can see that you're upset, or I can see that you're put off, or whatever it is. Like, I have what's called a support sandwich. It's confront,
Oh, I
support,
like that.
confront, support. and it's simple and it's and how it works, but it's really hard to implement because it requires a lot of effort. But give you an example is you support your partner first. So you can say, I can see you're upset that I'm being vulnerable, whatever that vulnerability is. Okay. So that's first and foremost supporting her, what potentially she's going through. And then I confront her to say, it's really hurt. I really feel judged when you put down my vulnerability, and I need you to honor that or whatever. So that's the confrontation. And then and that's a pretty normal kind of balanced way to communicate, right? Well, what the second support does to finish the sandwich, you say, and you know what? I know the part of me that can judge. And if you ever catch me judging you, I need you to tell me because I don't want to do that to you. So what that does, it levels the playing field.
I like that concept. Yeah.
If I'm just apologizing, or if I apologize, then I've made myself vulnerable. Okay. Because I made myself vulnerable to say I'm sorry. And then the other person feels up here because, he did me wrong. And he apologized. So I'm a little bit up here. But when I say, and you know what, my farts stink too, then boom, you're on the same page. Or, if you find me judging, then let me know, because I don't want to do that to you, because that levels the playing field. Because it's easy to get on our high horse when we've been done wrong, but we have to acknowledge the part of us that may have done wrong too. So that helps us in accepting ourselves, and it also helps you in accepting the other, and it allows you to forgive yourself and forgive whoever else. So it's support, confront, support, and it's just a way to communicate to where, the two key things I say is I feel and I need. That's vulnerability. I feel disrespected when you yell at me, and I need you to talk to me in a quieter way or a softer way.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that versus you.
These are all
exactly.
These are all non-confronting expressions versus what you're just now pointing out. This, that's a confronting expression, right?
Right. It's a softer way, or a more compassionate way to confront, and that's hard for a lot of people to confront. And this is a way to do it in a way that hopefully you'll get the best response. Now, I'm talking about more of a intimate relationship versus, say, an acquaintance or somebody at work that you're just not going to you're not going to be able to do this technique with. They're just not going to hear it. If it's a narcissist or whatever, they're not going to hear it. So in that case, it's just support. Yeah, I can see that's really hard for you. Yeah, no, yeah. Because you're not going to get anywhere, right?
That's funny.
But if you're in a relationship where you're creating this, this intimacy and building trust, then talking like this, communicating like this is a way to give you the best outcome.
Awesome. And I'm going to have a sandwich after. Well, I hope I don't have to have a sandwich after we're done. How do we help men feel safe expressing their emotions? Kind of a piggyback to a couple of the other ones. And then great video, great show. Keep these conversations coming. Okay, so this is the last question, and then there's a bunch of people. You got a whole new set of fan base here, my friend.
All right.
There's a bunch of people. So definitely leave that information at the.
I just put it in my website.
Oh, you did. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have you ask that, and then I'm gonna.
Wait a minute, I misspelled it. Hold on, I was multitasking. Don't ever do that. Let me get it right here.
I do it all the time and screw it up all the time.
It's a long address. Yeah. So let me get it right here.
Okay.
And Men on the Path.
Men on the Path. I like that.
To Love.
Is that a website?
Yeah.
Or a book? Website?
Website.
Love it. All right. So
Men on the.
While he's pulling that together, I'm gonna have oh,
it's all right.
You got it?
Cool. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's hard for me to see that. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, I have that problem. These are like numbers. I've used readers and they keep going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And I got up to 4 and I couldn't still see anything. I said, fine. Well, I could see, but it's just like you said, small things or dark rooms. So I went in and they gave me what would be equivalent to a 6.8 of a
Oh, wow.
reader. So
Wow.
I feel for you, brother. So
These are my computer glasses, so I love them. They're great. So anyway, so
yeah, absolutely.
Rod has
Go ahead.
this question about how to help men feel safe expressing their emotions. And again, that's a man asking that question. So is it you as a man? How do you as a man help men feel safe? Or how do you have your partner feel safe? So I just need a little bit of clarity. I'll try to answer it on both ends. If you have success and you are someone that does express their vulnerability and talk about their emotions and doing it in a healthy way, and somebody is struggling with that or doesn't feel safe, share your experience with them, because that's you being vulnerable in itself, and you're modeling vulnerability by doing that. And then that gives him a chance to understand what it must mean to do that. And even, support him by saying, this is really hard. We're not used to this. So, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself. Don't let yourself, beat yourself up for this. Like, you're trying. And the fact that you even want to, or even asking that question or want to be safe, that's the biggest part right there. And then you go and practice, do your best to do it. And look, we don't know until we try, and you gotta go for it and be committed to expressing yourself and learning how to do it.
It's like a muscle. You got to work on it, right?
Absolutely. And you can't do it sometimes. You got to do it all the time to really reinforce. And that's how you make change and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, with these changes that we're trying to make, and don't try to make them all at once. Work on one thing at a time.
That's true. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite sure. Let's bring that back up. I went down to the next. How can we men feel safe expressing their emotions? So that's definitely how can we feel safe in expressing our emotions. I think more expressively. I think that worked.
Well, how
in
do we feel safe?
relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's just being okay with you. It's being authentic. And that's, and like, no matter how she responds, it's you being okay with you. And it's not like, my road or the high road, whatever that expression is. It's
highway?
really, it's really about
highway or the highway.
Yeah. It's about me being authentic, and I'm doing this for good. And then if you feel unsafe, or she's talking in a way that makes you feel unsafe to express that, then express that. To say, like I said earlier, that this is hard for me and I need you to, stop judging me or whatever.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad we kind of filled that in a little bit for Rod. Great question, Rod. And the next couple of comments left are your information and people blowing smoke up your dress. So that
Woo!
yeah, exactly. So let's start that off. Great video, great show. Keep the conversations coming. Awesome, man.
Love it.
Oh, here's Rot back. Love the community and the vibe of this show.
Awesome.
Dude, thank you, Rot. Keep coming back, man. Tell everybody what you just said. Come on, my man. And then this is a friend of mine that I very artistic person that I've never met her or anything, but over the social media, sometimes you just see some work that's impressive and you go, okay, let me check that out. And then there's a bunch more. And her and I have just chatted, God, for a month or so now, back and forth, and she's what I would consider a friend. And then here's me saying hi to her. Oh God, I misspelled that.
God to see you. That's a good, beautiful thing.
God to see you. Hey, I meant to write it that way, Ronaldo. It's God to see you. That's a good one. You saved my ass there. Now here's your contact information. Everything looks good, right? And and on a final thought and a wave to everybody here before I close up. And there's an outro video as well. It's only 20 seconds. The other one was 30. But I'm going to wrap some things up and then we're going to close it down.
Cool.
For the day. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
First and foremost, Rod and producer Barbie, I just appreciate the opportunity to be on today.
Yeah.
And hopefully I've offered some value to your audience. And the fact that, you're open to, spreading the word about this and, seeing the response from your listeners and viewers. It shows me that I'm certainly on the right path to love and what's needed out there. And I just hope more and more men are open to this process. If there's anything I can do, to support, let me know. I offer a free coaching session, an hour-long coaching session. You can do that at my website, menonthepathtolove.com. And sometimes just one session, can just put you on the right track to move forward. And of course, I'm here to offer any extended support as well. So,
wow, fantastic! Give your fans a big wave, and I appreciate you being here. It was awesome. I expected it to be good, and it blew that away, which is a good thing, right? So, in what Bill was talking about towards the end, made me think of a comment, or not a comment, but the journey of 1,000 miles starts with just one step. And that's a perfect thing to say right here. Bill Simpson is an awesome dude. He's doing what we need as men and women. I mean, this is a relationship kind of message, and the focus does need to be on the man in this case, because we need to do a better job. It's been toxic masculinity for a while, but as I was listening to Mr. Simpson there, I realized that the toxic masculinity is a bad thing. It's harmful to men to hearing that, but if you go back and think about it, we haven't been doing our jobs as men, in that we haven't explored the feelings that are inside of us. This isn't a 60s hippie moment here or anything, which was kind of fun, but the work that needs to come from us is only about being somebody who is worth having that partner. Emotional maturity. These are the things that we need. Society doesn't, there's so many things about this thank you for this live space to learn and grow. Oh, thanks, Jack. See, I told you, Bill, they come on, they keep coming back, which is great, guys. I really appreciate your support. Always really appreciate your support. We have a workshop coming up. We're in the final. You should see information about it on your social media. It's everywhere. Well, for me, it's everywhere. So we're looking at systems to help men grow and be comfortable within their own skin. And on top of that, we're doing a workshop on aging Americans that are confronting AI. Okay, I got a couple more things to say, and then I'm going to say bye-bye. Couple quick ones here. Thank you for this live space to learn and grow. Landrick, you are an example of how important we need to put information around. This is Bill. This is an awesome show. Real talk happening here. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Lynn. And I am Rod Duff with Insights and Straight Talk. I'm your host, along with producer Barbie. And with that, I am out. Okay, I'm going to try that again. With that, I am out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.